Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Adeola Daramola. I'm waiting for that to come up. Okay, so what do I do? I'm a DevOps engineer. Well, I lead a team at Sterling Bank where we manage infrastructure, deploy applications, and one of the major things I recently did that I tell people is that we recently moved away from cloud. I don't know if all of us we understand cloud environment, right? So at Sterling Bank recently, we made a huge decision to say, oh, we're moving all our infrastructure far away from the cloud, and we're putting them on-prem. Right, so but that's just a little bit about me. So I manage on-prem infrastructures. I handle large-scale enterprise solutions across payments, across payments, APIs, and services across the organization. So that's just a bit about me. So let's go into today's topic, right? So, but I need to have an idea of the audience, right? Well, I mean, like, is anyone familiar with Kubernetes here? Oh, okay, that's good. They've not set me up completely because I feel like they set me up today because today is engineering and cybersecurity, and I mean, this is majorly cloud. Like this relates to cloud in a way. So, how many of us are familiar? So, since we have few people that are familiar with Kubernetes, that's very good. So, how many of us are familiar with AI in any way? You've prompt AI, of course. All right, that's it. So, what we are trying to do today, right, is we're trying to we are trying to connect our infrastructure, right, to how can we talk to our infrastructure, right? So let me put it this way: for those of us that don't know anything about Kubernetes, right, I'm going to say something around Kubernetes is an infrastructure that we use to provision applications, right? That we use to deploy applications, right? So it's an infrastructure in the cloud. You can provision it whether within your local system or in the cloud, right? So, but the idea is that this infrastructure, how can we use AI? Like, how can we ensure that, okay, with this infrastructure, we are able to sort of like use AI to communicate with our cloud environment. So this is typically what the talk is about, like what is that particular tool that can help us speak to applications or that can help us speak to solutions that we have deployed in the cloud, right? But so before we go into that, I was going to say, so why do we need to chat with Kubernetes, right? So one of the major things about Kubernetes is that it's it's very complex, right? Kubernetes is very complex. It's not easy to learn, right? The learning curve of Kubernetes takes a lot of time. You have to understand a lot of things, right? So when I mean you have to understand a lot of things, you have to understand all the components of Kubernetes, right? And so I just want us to try to understand. I don't know. I want to break down Kubernetes, right, so that everybody don't feel lost. I feel like everybody's looking at me like, what this guy is saying, right? So like, so let me explain Kubernetes in simple terms, right? Hmm. So Kubernetes is a solution that Google was working on at the time. I think that's roughly about 10 years ago, right? So they had a way of handling all our Google search, right? So when I mean by Google search, right, you know how Google is. Google is big. Everybody use Google. You have to search resources. So they needed infrastructure that could handle things. They needed infrastructure that could scale. They needed a kind of infrastructure that could also fix issue, replicate itself. Do you get like so? They need an infrastructure that could like how do I call it now? I'm trying to say that could heal itself, right? They need something that could heal. So that's how they built Kubernetes. So it was an internal solution at Google at that time before it became a project that was so big that they now had to outsource it and make it an open source project, right? So making an open source project means that everybody can now build on top of what they have done in the organization. So everybody now started to tap into Kubernetes and start to build more. And then there's a huge community around it. If you hear of anything like cloud native, that's that's the community we have around Kubernetes. So now let's dive in. So now that's just a little intro into Kubernetes itself, right? So it's a huge infrastructure. It takes a lot to learn. You have to put your time into understanding how Kubernetes work for you to understand the entire component. So like I said, why Kubernetes? Kubernetes is powerful and it's complex, right? You can't just pick Kubernetes up and start learning, right? You need to learn a lot of things. And another major thing, again, as cloud engineers or as DevOps engineers, is that we have to learn a lot of commands, right? So on a day-to-day, an average DevOps engineer is probably typing 15 to 20, 25 commands. And depend, if you're troubleshooting for long, then you're typing maybe like 100 commands on your terminal, right? So many commands that you need to know, you need to remember. So these are all the things that you need to, that we are these are all the things that we are trying to take away by using AI, right? So that we don't have to write all these commands, we don't have to do all of these things by ourselves. So another major thing is why Kubernetes is context switching, right? So when I mean context switching, say for example, I'm troubleshooting something, right? I'm troubleshooting a particular solution. I'm troubleshooting something within my Kubernetes environment. If I have an issue there, I have to copy it, then go to my ChatGPT or go to my Gemini, go to my cloud. We're in a Google event, so I'll use Gemini more, right? So I go to Gemini, then I paste it, right? So when I paste it, then I'll tell it, oh, please, I'm having this issue, help me resolve it. But the challenge with that is that I'm constantly moving away from my terminal to my chatbot, which means the AI does not have good context of what I'm trying to solve, right? So that is one of the major challenges why what I'm about to talk about in terms of how we can chat with a cluster comes in, because it reduces the need for us to be able to be switching context, right? So another thing is, of course, high cognitive load when debugging. You have to be very solid, like you have to be very good. You have to be like a Kubernetes expert for you to be able to troubleshoot issues within the cluster environment and figure things out. Sometimes you even need to know where to look, right, before you can even do anything in a Kubernetes cluster. So now, this is what my entire talk is all about today. It's literally everything here. So, I'm going to do a bit of, how many of us know MCP? You've heard MCP before, you don't know what it is, or you've heard it before. Do you know what MCP is? Can you tell us what MCP is? Wow. Can anyone tell us what MCP is? Okay, I think I have a job today. All right. So I think that will be my takeaway. Like I'll try to make sure that everyone in this room understand what MCP is, because it's a buzzword that has been going on around for the past a year now, right? So what is MCP? So think of it as, so let me give you a bit of background, right? A bit of origin into MCP, how MCP came about, right? So do we know the organization Entropy? At least do we know Entropy? Yeah, okay, so Entropy, they're the one that built MCP, right? So, and how did MCP happen, right? After they built this, after they had a successful building the cloud desktop, right? So they had a week, right, to have an hackathon within the organization. It's like an internal hackathon, and they told everybody, go ahead and build any solution that you want. Just build something. Everybody go and build something in a week. And they all came back and all of them built MCP. That's exactly how MCP was born. It was launched on 25th of November 2024, right? So that was how everybody built an MCP. So let me now come to it. So what is an MCP? So MCP is a service. So the MCP is a service, right, that extends AI capability beyond the chatbot environment, right? So it gives AI the capability to be able to connect to data sources, such as it could be your database, it could be any backend service, it could be an API that it's calling, right? So beyond just the entire concept of chatting within the chat box, right? You want to make an order on ChowDeck, right? You typically go to their app, right? You make your order. So now think of it as a way that we have ChowDeck MCP. So what does ChowDeck MCP be? So what ChowDeck MCP is means that someone built a particular. So another thing again is don't get confused with the server part. It can be very confusing, right? MCP is an application, right, that AI use to be able to perform things with tools or whatever resource that we connect it to. So don't get carried away with the server. I think it's just a naming issue, right? Don't see it as a server. It's an application, written application that used to extend AI capabilities, right? So now, my analogy on ChildX now. So think of it this way. When you want to make that order, you're on the app, right? So now think of it in such a way whereby you open your Gemini page, right? So someone has built a ChildX MCP server. So what that ChildX MCP server means is that that guy already understands all the backend functionalities of ChildX, right? So once you get, so say for example, you now connect to that particular, you're connected to that MCP server within your maybe ChatGPT chatbot text, or within your cloud environment, your cloud chatbot, right? So when you now say, you activate your ChildX server, you now say, I want to place an order, right? I want rice, I want beans, I want plantain, and whatever thing you want, right? And you just said send. The way you will have said, oh, I need you to write my CV, revamp my CV in the same way, you will have just sent that. So the AI will now be intelligent enough to know that you are trying to place an order to ChildX because you have ChildX MCP server running in that environment. So what it does for you is everything that you will have done in the UI, right? It just helps you do that, right? It helps you place the order, then probably just give you something like a link to just make your payment. And that's how so I just wanted to have that context of it allows AI to be able to do more than just what it can do within that chatbot. So it extends capability of AI, right, to backend service. Another typical example I've seen is where you can use MCP, you can create like an MCP server that you can use to close a door, right? Like, so say for, so I mean like, typically not our typical Nigerian doors, like foreign doors whereby you can, this like there are automated doors that have maybe like network connectivity and all of that. So what you typically do is you maybe you're away from your house, you just not sure you lock your door. You can just prompt AI and it will lock your door. There are people that have built MCP servers that you can use to create music by connecting it to music devices. So like the whole point is that beyond just beyond just chatting with AI, right? You can use MCP servers that you've written, right? Could be to extend the capability of that AI to do beyond that. So like I said here, so our example today is for Kubernetes cluster, of course, which means we want to be able to create infrastructure. We want to be able to create applications on cloud environment. We want to be able to see the resources we have on that environment. So within that cluster, everything that will have run a command to do, right? What I would typically just do is just type, list this for me. How many of these are running? And AI just goes into the server, right? Because of the server that is already understand in this context, right? So he's able to handle those things. So let me now explain the client. So the client can be your chatbot, it can be your Cloud desktop, it can be your VS Code, it can be anything, right? It can be any of those things that you use to communicate with the AI. So basically just your client can be any of this service. So in this case, right, I was thinking about if I could use AI to borrow money from Lapo, right? So that's why we have a Lapo backend. All right, so I think I've explained a lot of this. So the LLM is the engine, right? It could be Claude, it could be Gemini 3 Pro, Gemini 3, it could be it could be Grok, any of the AI services. But the main thing is that you are using MCP, right? So it's open source, right? MCP is an open source project, right? So you can write your MCP server that suits the solution that you want, right? Anybody can write anything. So it uses the AI to easily connect with the world. Another thing again is your organization can have large sum of files, right? And you're trying to find something from it. Maybe they are all in a docs document. You can just use a doc MCP to look through those files, to connect with those files, and you're able to get things out from that particular file. So in this section, right, we have a tool called kubectl, right? So kubectl is a command line interface that we use to connect, right? The command line that we use to connect with Kubernetes. So naturally, if I want to get resources that are provisioned or that are created uh, within within a Kubernetes environment, I'll use the kubectl command, things like kubectl get pods, things like kubectl get deployment, get stateful sets, depending on that. But with the kubectl MCP server, I don't need all of that. All I need to just do is to prompt AI and say, oh, list this for me, list that for me, is this here? And I will get the results. So so yeah, one of them. So this is the guide that we're going to be talking about. I mean, that we're going to be using today to interact with the Kubernetes cluster. So it's an open source model context protocol, right? So that is a tool that enables a prompt interface to safely connect to your cluster. So these are the three key things that it also does, right? So there is always a configuration file that you will have within your environment. Maybe you're working within your development environment, right? So this is what kubectl and the MCP server will pick to be able to connect to that environment. So it can run in multiple ways. You can run it in a CLI mode, which is what we're going to be doing today, and we can also run it in a server mode, right? So let's do a bit of demo, and then let's get right into it. So yeah, no, I'm talking too much. I should show some workings. So let's do it this way. So if naturally, right, if you're going to create an MCP server, I mean, so before this class, I've installed the MCP server, right? It's written in Python, right? So what I just need to do is to start it up, right? So and let me show us the configuration for that. Okay, I think I have it running, but let's see. Okay, so this is my configuration within. So when you are creating an MCP server, right? After you have installed the service, right? There's a way you have to configure it within your client, right? In my client case here is VS Code, right? It could be your Claude, it could be your chatgpt.com, right? You could connect an MCP server directly into chatgpt.com. You could connect it to any of those environments. So, but in this case, right, I'm using I'm spinning it up within what do you call it, within a WSL. Do you know WSL? Yeah, exactly. So I'm using WSL within a Windows environment, right? And if you can see the path. So this is the part where the particular MCP server has been installed, right? So what this does is that, so I've indicated I'm trying to start a server. So it's in a running state. I can always stop it, right? So this is the configuration that I've defined. The type is studio is using command WSL. These are the arguments that I use to start up the service. All right, so I think that's pretty much everything we need. So I stopped it. Okay, so let me start the MCP server. All right, so just so that you understand what I'm saying, typically, right, this is my CLI, and if I want to do anything, I want to interact with my cluster, I will have to do this. This is what I will have to do, right? I'll interact with the Kubernetes cluster this way. I'll have to know all these commands. I have to, if I want to get, I don't know if I have that, get events, okay. I don't have that. Yeah, so this is what I will have done. So, but with MCP server that I have running here, right? Everything that I do there, I just have to come to my chart environment here and do the same, right? So a good example is, so another thing is, yeah, I have a lot of AI. So let's use Gemini Pro since that was released this week. Um, so this particular environment already understand that I am connected to a Kubernetes cluster. So let me just do list all my deployments in the default name space. Internet is good. All right, so what it does is, oh, so that's the thing. Internet is our problem today. Well, let's see. Okay. All right. So you see, it's telling me it's trying to run. So this, if you can see, you see run get underscore deployment. So run so get underscore deployment is part of the feature that have been created within that MCP server. So it's trying to pick that tool that have been created within that MCP server. So now you see it has stated there that okay, I want to pick get deployment within Kubernetes MCP server, right? And I've identified namespace as like a parameter of where you should select it from. Now, then the next thing is it's asking for my permission. Should I allow? You get like so that's the thing. It gives you that control to say, okay, I allow this, right? So the next thing that happens is it's going to list out all of those resources, that deployment that I have within that particular Kubernetes namespace. Let's wait. This is just internet, right? Yeah, so you can see I have Nginx, 3 replicas in that namespace. And if you go to the CLI, you will see, let me do get deployment. So this, yeah, this is what I have in that environment. So there are so many things you can do. I can tell it to, okay, create a busy boss deployment in default namespace. Okay. Yeah, so you can basically just tell it anything you want. You see that it will get another tool completely, right? To get another tool that is part of the Kubernetes MCP, right? To handle this particular stuff. But let's wait for it. Still, this is internet. So, but what I really want us to take away is the understanding of MCP. So, does anyone understand MCP now? You understand MCP to some extent, right? Okay, so I'll be expecting you to build your own MCP and tag us so that we can use it. So I'm waiting for that to create. So there's so many tools, there's so many opportunities that this provide. So it's trying to define that. So okay. So yeah, so it has named it busy boss. See what I said again. It's using one of the tools within the MCP server, which is create deployment, right? So what I need to do is just to allow. And so the moment I'll allow, it's going to create that particular service. So you can use this for just about anything, right? You can connect your Excel sheet. You can connect your databases. Like you can literally just configure MCP server to have access to your database, to fetch results for you from your database. You can use it for, I don't know, everything just depends on, there's no limit to like what you can use MCP server for. Because there are even situations whereby you can configure an AI agent, right, that also communicate with another AI agent through the MCP, right? So instead of it going to outside to like an API backend, it speaks to another agent, right? So there are so many things we can do around this, and it just speaks to that we are still scratching the surface when it comes to AI. I just want this to create so that um, we can see the deployment. Mm, mm. Wow, this is taking long. Okay, so if any, I don't know, if anyone is interested in this, like if you're interested in configuring all of this AI for your VS Code, you can just reach out to me after the presentation. I will have one or two things to let you know on how you can have all of these AI models within your VS Code, because these are a lot of AI models. So you can only switch any one of them anytime you want to work on any of the AI tools. So I think we have Grok, we have Gemini, we have ChatGPT, we have Claude. So those are the written AI models, all of them, right? So this, I think this is internet. Internet is really taking this, making this take a while. All right, so let me go back. Yeah. So one of the advantages of what we have just done is that it also helps with collaboration, right? You can integrate this process into Slack, right? Whereby your entire team can collaborate with an infrastructure from your chat environment. Like you guys can follow things, you can review logs, you can fetch log from a deployment you by just chatting with your cluster, right? So all of this is one of the reasons why how we can use MCP and makes our life better day to day. So if you are interested in trying out MCP, right? This is a website to check out MCP servers, right? There are a lot of MCP servers there. If you're in any feed, any area where you are, there are a lot of, like DevOps related, you see a lot of MCP servers, Azure MCP servers. We even have MCP servers these days that you can use to provision resources on cloud directly. Like just connect maybe like like a Google Cloud, you want to provision a VM, anything, you just plug in MCP server to your environment, authenticate to it, and you just have to chat with wire environment, and it's creating infrastructure for you within a cloud. So yeah, these are the key takeaways, right? So ChatUp is a way to collaborate and collaborate with the DevOps workflow to improve our process, ensure that we are improving and we're catching up with AI. We are integrating AI into our processes as DevOps engineer. So Kubernetes is powerful, but it is tough. It's hard to understand, and this helps to simplify it. It reduces all the frictions that you have to go through to like understand all of these things around Kubernetes. Just by chatting with your cluster, you get more visibility into what is going on there. You are able to do things even as a beginner, or even someone just starting up, right? Or maybe, for example, I work in a place where sometimes you have to deal with support guys. They don't really have an understanding of what you are doing. But with this, right, they can collaborate easily, right? Because I work in a place where you have to sometimes share logs with people, right, and all of that. But imagine a situation where we are all collaborating within a Slack environment, and if they need logs, they just have to prompt the AI, and they'll get the logs. So those are the things or ways we can integrate MCP into our process, right? So Kubernetes MCP server, what it has done for us is it has helped us to bridge the gap between uh, difficult processes or things that we will have had to like complex for us to understand, right? So it helps us bridge that gap. It gives us access to Kubernetes in a way whereby we can chat with it, and that's has been really really helpful, at least in my knowledge and how I've been using it. So, are there any questions for me? All right, please go on. Good morning. What's the name? Okay, I can't. The mic is he on? All right. It, okay.
Okay, so I was saying how deterministic it is.
Okay, so I mean, of course, we know that being precise with prompts is very important with AI, right? You have to be very definitive of what you're saying because, of course, you can. Okay, for example, if you have a lot of MCP servers, say for example, I have like 5, 6, 7 MCP servers running within my client environment, right? And both of them are running, right? If I say I want to take a loan, AI is smart enough to know that I am not talking about Kubernetes MCP server. Like it doesn't you need to use Kubernetes MCP server. I don't know if you get my point, right? If I say I want to make an order, right? But of course we can always, I mean, like, we always try to beat AI. Like, people do it every time, like, try to outsmart how it thinks, try to give prompts to it on how to do it. But the main thing is, it depends on how the MCP server is set up, or how the MCP server has been created, right? To be able to understand and pick prompts that you have sent to it, right? That will allow the MCP server to be able to answer those questions or to be able to give you the feedback as you like. Then I think the other one is agentic. Okay, so I think agentic AI is completely different from AI because agentic AI, I mean, they sort of like undo things on their own, right? These have to be provisioned. Like when I mean MCP servers are servers that I mean, like, they are more about context, right? Giving AI, giving LLMs context. I don't know if you get my point, right? Where we don't have context in the sense that, okay, I think I use an example of when you're switching environment to from your cloud, from your CLI, your terminal, to sending maybe like sending AI prompt and all of that. But this is completely different from agentic AI. Really, it's about giving more access to our AI, to our LLMs, right? It's more about giving access to our LLMs in order for them to be able to do external things that they won't be able to have access to. It could be things like scrapping the internet. It could be things like that, right? So the MCP server is what gives them that external. It's like an extended opportunity or an extended hand, right, for them to be able to connect to the outside world, so to speak. All right. Do we have any other? Okay. Good morning. All right.
I'm a software engineer,
All right.
so I have not worked on DevOps or MCP server before.
All right.
So, hearing MCP server today, I'm kind of confused. Am I to assume MCP server under the hood, in normal terms, uses things like API to communicate to the server, like to communicate to whatever we are using to build, kind of like the child deck example you made.
Okay.
Say you want to order a food on child deck.
Mm.
Now, normally, if I should do it in the direct way, I go to the child deck front end application, buy the food and every other stuff.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm building an MCP server, is the AI going to be using child deck API to communicate with child deck server?
Okay, so look at it this way. Okay, so you go into chatgpt.com, right? You are in that chatbot, right? So, and then you have an option to activate child deck MCP, right? You activate it. So after you activate child deck MCP, what it means is that that AI can now connect to the child deck backend. If you toggle it off, it doesn't know about it anymore. I don't know if you get my point, right? So what it does is that, so it's like, child deck has API backend, right? So what MCP server does is that it is wrapped around that API. Do you get? It's like, for example, you understand every endpoint on that API, right? You understand maybe get my order, you understand go to cart, you understand list of food, you understand like different endpoints that are within Chowdeck backend, right? So, but what it does now is that it gives LLM, right, the ability to communicate with that backend, but in a standard protocol, right, that doesn't give the AI ability more than it needs to. Do you get? So, okay, you can.
That if it is using AI, like API connections, then how do we avoid restrictions? Because even as a software engineer,
Okay.
there are sometimes you are trying to communicate with a backend and you just get cause error
Yeah.
saying, I don't understand where you're coming from and all those stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
how does the AI get access to those things and
Okay, so another thing I need to let you know is that I only use Chowdeck as an example for us to relate to and try to understand the whole concept. But you can't randomly go and build Chowdeck MCP. It has to be someone that already understands the API, right? It has to be the back end of Chowdeck engineers, Chowdeck engineers that understand the API that can now build MCP server around it, following the standard protocol of that MCP server uses. Does it make sense?
yeah, it makes sense.
All
But you
right.
made a mention of if you're interested in MCP, you can try out your own
Okay.
and build it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
what if I don't have a server or if I can't talk to Childec API directly or stuff like that? Then what am I to build to just test how MCP works?
Okay. Okay. I think a simple one would be to a simple thing you can build will be the documentation, right? So when I mean documentation, I mean like there are MCP servers, right, that you can use to connect to just Google Docs, right? So you can use to just connect to Google Docs and use that. You can build something like that. So there's so many things you can build. I think it's all about doing more research around MCP servers itself. But you need to first understand how to write MCP servers. Then before you can now, and it has to be tools that maybe, for example, the API is okay. For example, now you can build an MCP server for like Spotify, right? Spotify API is open, right? So you can think of something around MCP server for Spotify, maybe that just fetch some kind of song or do some kind of things with songs, right? And when you now plug it into your LLM, you're able to use it to scrap everything or to do anything within Spotify. So of course the API has to be something you have access to before you can build an MCP server for it, right? Like it can't be like a private organization's
All right, thank you. That's
API. You can't be, of course. So you guys, I think someone had a question. Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah. So my question is, can we relate this MCP servers or something like a hub?
Of MCP servers, right?
Yeah, can
Yeah,
we relate
we
MCP servers to like a hub?
hub of
HUB.
HUB. Hmm. Um, I was
And
going.
my
Okay.
second question is, can MCP servers be interconnected
Interconnected. Okay, like
with
maybe
each other?
MCBs to MCB servers,
Yes.
right? Yeah, that's possible. I think we have. But I think that is more of A to A, agent to agent, right? In a situation where we have an agent communicating to, like AI agent communicating to another AI agent. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Not really.
Or just MCP server connect to another MCP server.
Yes, like in an
Then there have to
environment.
be some sort of context that you're trying to connect.
Yes. So what I'm trying to get is in an
Okay.
environment,
All right.
like in a work environment, can multiple MCP servers be connected to each other?
Yeah, it's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of an example that makes sense for me to talk about. Okay. Let's say, okay, let's say for example we are trying to write. I don't know. I don't want to use documents. I'm trying to think of something that can connect two MCP servers together. Can't really remember right now. Okay, say for example, right? Say for example, the kubelet kubelet MCP server that I mentioned. Say for example, you have it running. You also have like your MCP server that connects to your cloud environment running, right? Those are two things, right? So this Kubernetes that I have is running within my local system. So imagine a situation whereby you have a Kubernetes cluster, right, running in the cloud, right? So you're now trying to give permission to this guy to be able to access the Kubernetes resource, right, within that cloud environment. So that's where you are trying to connect two MCP servers together. So that's like a typical example, but of course, I mean, we're open to building new solutions. I mean, we can come up with more things.
Okay, then.
Okay, your next second question.
Yes. No, the first one.
Okay, you want to ask more on that?
No, the first question I was trying to be sure if we can relate MCP server to like
hub.
a hub. Yes.
So your definition of hub is what I'm trying to understand.
Like a hub that can take in different connections from.
Like a connector.
Yes. Something like that.
Oh, like a connector.
Can we relate it to something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a connector in a way. Yeah, it's a connector because what is trying to connect is you should always know that on one side it will always be the LLM, right? Okay. Then on the other side, MCP, I mean any data source that you are trying to.
So like
do you get my point? Like the LLM will be here, Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT, then any other thing you're trying to connect it to, database, spreadsheets. Okay. Do you get? You can connect to spreadsheets. Yes, you can connect to pipelines. You can connect to anything. Like you just name any resource that you want to reach out to. You can use it to scrap internet. Like you can use so many things. So yeah, it's sort of like a connector.
Okay.
Right?
Then my other question is there any security awareness we should be note about the MCP server thing?
So the thing is, the security awareness is in the protocol itself, right? That's why it's an open standard, right? To write the particular an MCP server, you need to follow some standard that have been defined, right? So in that, right, is where the security concerns are handled within the MCP. So because the main thing is about it is that you are not giving AI beyond what it needs. Did you get? Yeah. So the MCP server defines what the AI can do, right? I don't know if you get my point, right? So say for example, as I was trying to create deployment the other time, if there's no create deployment in that MCP server, it will not work. Do you get? It will not work. So that's exactly what I'm trying. Of course, we are still exposed to security in one way or the other, right? The connection is still exposed to security, but like the standard procedure the open standard, right? Ensure that we are restricted and we are following the stated standard when we are creating these MCP servers. Any other? Okay.
So hi.
Okay. Hi, hello.
Sorry, my name is John. Yeah, John Chinedu. I'm a software developer. So I have like two questions.
Okay.
Yeah. The first one is this MCP server. Can we use it to like test endpoints and create a documentation around it?
Can we use it to test
endpoints? Yes.
Test endpoints.
Yes.
Like you mean like you have an API?
Yeah. So you have an API. You want to like test it if it's actually doing majorly or all the requirements.
No.
And another thing is, how can you, as a backend engineer, I don't know if you have an idea around it, how can you build what you want to build around using around MCP so that you can grant it access to your API so that when you want to use it in your front end to consume it, you get it.
Okay. Sorry, let me answer this then. All right. So I think when you mention front end now, so you sort of like twist the way I was expressing the question, right? So the front end can be anything, right? It can be anything. It can be a chatbot on a website. It can be any form of chat where you can. So the idea is that chatbot has an access to an LLM server, right? So and you can just there's a documentation on you can review MCP servers that people have created, right? There's a website, MCP server registry, right? So there's an MCP server registry where you can see a lot of MCP server people have created. So you can access their GitHub repo, and that will give you an idea on how to create an MCP server. You can also check up MCP server documentation on Entropy website. Right, so I think you can use any language of your choice to write. The main thing is that the AI that you are using, the LLM that you are using, is MCP compatible, right? It's able to like use MCP and is able to understand MCP protocol to be able to access the data source environment or the external tool you are trying to connect it to. So I think your first question was around. Yeah. I don't think you can test an endpoint with MCP server. The point of MCP server is to connect AI to external tools, right? So if you want to test an endpoint, probably just find other ways to test your endpoint, but not necessarily with MCP server. It's a connector, right? It's just giving AI and extending AI capabilities. I think let's meet after. Let's meet after. All right, thank you. So yeah, we can connect on LinkedIn and what do you call it? All right, am I good? All right, thank you very much.
Please